What is up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be walking you through what I think are the best creative maps and what I personally do every day for daily practice and just to warm up before I get on the game, play, and stream. If you guys do find this video helpful or informative, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, comment down below what aspect of your game you're going to try to improve from creative, and if you would like to use me for a supporter creator, my code is EvolveJake. If you use that in the item shop when getting the Season 4 Battle Pass, I would much appreciate it. Before we get into these maps, I'm just going to briefly talk about creative because I've talked about this a bunch in videos, but I feel like creative is the best way to improve as a player in this game. Battle Royales just kind of naturally make it harder to improve. Seeing a lot of people in a game for mini players would be like 10 kills, you know, and that's 10 kills in like 20 minutes. A higher kill game for like a lot of more like above average players would be like 20, and even then that's 20 kills in around 20 minutes or so, roughly 1 kill a minute. The previous example is roughly like 1 kill every 2 minutes. And the reason why that really matters is because you don't get very much experience fighting in a game of Fortnite, especially if you're a newer player. A lot of newer players tend to try to play for in-game, but in creative you can get so much more practice in a much smaller time period, so your practice and your improvement will just be much more condensed and much faster. So that's why playing creative is important if you want to improve. I think there's this misconception that you need to spend 8 hours a day in creative to get any better, and I feel like mostly that is just kind of like pushed around by people who don't actually want to improve. I'm going to show you what I do to warm up and just as daily practice. I think that's kind of the best way to like combine it. If you get on and warm up and have your daily practice, not only are you going to get better over time, but you're going to play better in your matches. And because of that, like, timing we talked about before with BRs just not being the most, like, condensed, action-packed games, if you don't get warmed up, it might take you several matches to get to the point where you feel comfortable with the game, and then that was just wasted time. So, personally, I think playing creative, practicing warming up every day before you get on and play, not only will it make you better in the long run, but you'll see immediate benefit in the sense that you'll actually be warmed up for your matches. We're going to start off with aim. Personally, I don't do too much for aim, but we're going to be using Xerex's Aim Map. This is an aim and mechanics map, so there's a free build portion of this map. There's editing portions, there's piece control portions, but we're mainly just going to be focusing on the aim. And this video will be for people who play normals and zero build. So I don't do much for this. Pretty much all I do is the shotgun room, where there's a target where you can shoot it, or place a wall, edit your wall, shoot the target, reset your wall, and just like kind of rinse and repeat that. Not only is this good for shotgun aim, but it's good for getting that muscle memory down of like making an edit, confirming it, shooting, and then resetting. Like, you're just doing so many actions there that I think it's something good to practice, because that is something that's going to be really important in game. And that's pretty much all I do as far as aim training goes. The assault rifles and the SMGs in Fortnite, I think, are really easy to use. I've been playing shooters for a really long time, so it's not something I really need to practice or warm up as much, but there are rooms in this map where you can practice your long range assault rifle aim. Also, you can practice like mid-range SMG aim in several different ways. There's a 1v1 with a bot, there's this room where the targets just kind of move around, and then like I said, there's the long range assault rifle aim. And pretty much all I personally use is the shotgun room, and I do this for maybe like 5 to 10 minutes, probably 5. I don't do it for a very long period of time, but that's pretty much the only aspect of aim that I really have to worry about is like my shotgun aim, and not only jet, but just making sure I'm really fluid with like editing a wall, pumping, and then resetting the wall. Getting that action down will have a huge impact on your gameplay if you play build mode. The next thing we're going to talk about is going to be editing and building. So I have somewhat of an interesting perspective on this. There's countless edit maps in the game. I'm going to be using Raiders map. Also, by the way, all the codes for these maps will be linked down in the description below. But I'm going to be using Raiders map. As far as an edit map goes, this map is really old. There's countless edits maps. I personally don't really use edit maps at this point in time. I think if you're a newer player or a lesser experienced player, you're not as comfortable editing, then edit maps can be really good to just like practice the basics of editing. And with Raiders map, there is a ridiculous amount of different scenarios that you can practice with editing. But I feel like if you are a more advanced player or above average player, when it comes to building and editing, it's kind of just best to practice them together. So you just, you know, go into a blank world or even the free build section of the Xerex map, or even just out in the open in this Raiders map, and practice just building and editing and doing a lot of edits as you're building. Because when you're in a real fight in game, it's not like all the builds are just going to be there. You know, you're going to be building and editing through your builds as you're editing. So I think it's really important to practice that. And that's pretty much the only building and editing practice I do, is just kind of like free building a little bit, maybe like 10 or 20 minutes. Definitely I practice this more than the shotgun aim we were talking about, because I think it is more important. And I've had people ask me like questions about like, how do you get better at building and editing? Personally, I think it really just comes down to putting in the time in and practicing. It's just a mechanical skill. The more time you put in, the more you practice it, the better you will get at it. There's very little I can tell you that's just going to make you immediately good at building. It really just comes down to like putting in the time and practicing, because it's really just feeling based and timing based on when you hit the button. So like I said, practice shotgun aim about 5 minutes or so, maybe less. Building and editing, I practice a bit more, probably 10 to 20 minutes, depending on like how I'm feeling on the day or what I feel like doing. And then finally, we're going to get into fighting. So this is the biggest thing. I think one of the biggest things. And as creative has gone on and people have gotten better at making maps, this is one of the things that I feel like is so beneficial for you. A lot of players don't want to go into aim maps and practice. They don't want to practice building and editing by themselves in an island, but like they think it's really boring, whatever. These fighting maps are really beneficial. So we're going to be talking about 2 in this video, but there's countless. I'm going to have a no build portion and a build portion. So even if you're a no build player, practicing this fighting map will get you so much better at the game so much faster, because of what we talked about at the start of the video, where it's hard to get the reps in an actual game. Like I said, a high kill game for a lot of you might be 10 kills. If you're slightly above average or a good player, you know, it might be like 20 kills is a high kill game for you. But even that, the amount of kills you're getting over time is much lower than what you can get in creative. So in build mode, we have the Pit. I know there's other maps that are like this one that apparently people like more. I don't really care how the map looks. It's meant to just get you in as many fights as possible, as fast as possible. So it's really chaotic. You'll constantly have people landing on you. You'll get third-partied. Your kills will get stolen. It doesn't matter. We're just doing this for practice, and we're trying to get in as many fights as possible in as small of a time period as possible, just to like get the reps in, get used to fighting, and get warmed up like I was talking about before. So I think the Pit is really good for that if you just want to get into a bunch of fights very fast. If you're a zero build player, this Coney Crossroads Deathmatch is the same case. Like I said, the codes will be in the description below. This is just a recreation of Coney Crossroads. In the lobby, in between games, you can pick what weapons you have now, and you can just get into a bunch of fights. Again, it's really chaotic. Your kills are going to get stolen sometimes. You're going to get third-partied sometimes and just die. You're going to get teamed on maybe accidentally sometimes. It's very chaotic, but you're not meant to be playing this to win or to play as safe as possible and like get a high KD. You're playing this to get in as many fights as possible in as small of a time period as possible and practice things like aiming, weapon swapping, strafing, anything that goes into fighting in zero build or build in either of these maps is what you want to be practicing. Don't worry about how you're playing overall. Don't worry about your KD. Don't worry about having the most kills and winning the map. Just worry about getting practice in and getting better. So those are the 2 maps I use, or I would use. Personally, I don't warm up for zero builds. I would just warm up builds, because building and editing and fighting in the Pit is so much more mechanically demanding that if I practice that, I'm going to be able to jump into zero builds and do just fine. And this is another thing I would probably do for about 10 or 20 minutes or so before I stream. So that brings like the grand total of, if you did the longest total time of what I recommended, to about 50 minutes or so. And that is really long, but I usually just watch YouTube videos while I do this. I kind of put them on for like background audio and then play. And this is how I get ready to stream every day. If you didn't want to do that long, like I said, you can change the timing up depending on what you want to do and how much time you're willing to dedicate to warming up and your daily practice. There are also fighting maps like 1v1 realistics, 1v1 build fights, zone wars, box fights, and those are probably better if all you want to do is get better. You're going to tend to probably play against better opponents in those maps than you would in something like the Pit. But this was meant to be just like my daily warm-up practice routine, and when I'm just getting into fights, I just want to get into as many as possible in a small amount of time. So that's why I use the Pit instead of things like zone wars, build fights, box fights, 1v1 realistics. Those maps are good and those fights are good. If you want to just put more time into practice, those maps would probably be more beneficial for the Pit. But this is just my daily practice warm-up routine. This is what I do every day, and this is what I've been doing for a while. So if you guys found this video helpful and informative, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more. Comment down below what aspect of your game you're going to practice most. Is it going to be aim? Is it going to be like building and editing mechanics? Or are you just going to get into those fighting maps and get in so many more reps fighting? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.